At Sisu, we take a very scientific approach to making sure our technologically advanced, doctor-developed, scientifically backed, industry-changing mouthguards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouthguards on the planet to guarantee you're protected. No matter what comes your way, the Sisu Next Gen. Sisu, talk, breathe, drink. At Sisu, we take a very scientific approach to making sure our technologically advanced, doctor-developed, scientifically backed, industry-changing mouthguards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouthguards on the planet to guarantee you're protected. No matter what comes your way, the Sisu Next Gen. Sisu, talk, breathe, drink.
Hey, T, we're back. It's game week. It's Saturday. We've got a bunch of great games coming up, and obviously our unofficial friends at Las Vegas Lines who produce these lines every week. It's kind of nice to have a Twitter account that does this and does all the work, so that's a lot of fun. However, it's also cool to be able to pick games based on spreads and over-unders. So, but first, AT, huge news in the lacrosse world. Shillinglaw, Bob Shillinglaw at Delaware, will announce his retirement after the 2017 season. Talk a little bit to me about what his impact has been on the game in his 42 years of collegiate coaching.
Yeah, unbelievable career, really. I mean, one of the sports icons when you look at the landscape of college lacrosse in general, but specifically Division I. I was doing, I was reading up on his career, and one of the things that I found interesting was in 1986, it might have been 1986 or 85. I was reading about how originally the Final Four was supposed to be at Army that year, and it ended up getting switched to Delaware. And it was actually, I think it was 85 because, or was it 84? Sorry, it's a little unprofessional. I got to get my stuff back together. But in short, basically, he was one of the guys that helped sort of promote the sort of the one venue, big time platform for the national tournament in college lacrosse. And, I remember the first game that I went to that I remember really well was 83 when Syracuse came back from, I think, a 12-5 deficit to beat Hopkins, something like 17-16. Brad Kotz had 5 goals. And I remember going home and stringing my stick exactly like Brad Kotz after that. I was an 8th grader. Awesome. And then I think the next year was when they had a rematch, and it was at Delaware. Del Dressel was 2-2, and Hopkins ended up winning that game. And that game was originally supposed to be at Army, but it ended up getting moved to Delaware. And I remember my dad driving us down to Delaware. Mike Murphy, who's now the UPenn coach, was in the car with us, and I think it was his first lacrosse game that he had ever been to. And now, oddly, he ends up as the head coach of Penn. But just in terms of what Shills has done, it's really incredible. I want to say they won 15 conference championships. Is that right?
I don't have the stats on hand with me, but it is somewhere around there.
Really incredible. I mean, the what a career. I mean, Hall of Fame, certain Hall of Fame career. He's just coached a ton of players and done a ton for the sport. And, every year that's a team that is super dangerous, and would love to see him go out with a bang and, in a perfect world, have his best career this year and his last, but we'll see. That's to come.
It is, and we will talk a little bit more in the future about potential replacements to Schilling Law. You got to figure that is a school that will be hunted down by some of the best head coaches and assistant coaches in the country. No question that Delaware is a prime spot, for recruiting, prime location spot in terms of being able to get, and we were just talking about this off air, AT, about how to schedule games. Being that you're in Delaware, you're kind of just like Philadelphia, you're kind of in the central market for all these teams. And it's easy for teams to travel either by bus or by flight to get in and out to a place like Newark, but also, say, Philadelphia. So that is huge. But certainly the CAA is a winnable league conference. And you should expect a lot of big names coming into the race there. But AT, we have games to pick this week. Why don't you start us off on the first game of the week? And a reminder that all the games that we pick are simply the games that have been given lines and over-unders to. Otherwise, we pick all the games, and it would take us 2 hours to do it.
Right. So. And any line that's been published by our friends at Lax Vegas Lines, RD and I will cover those games specifically. So I think that they, correct me if I'm wrong, RD, but they cover all of the top 20 games and then any sort of write-in Twitter requests. Is that
I think so
saying?
too. Yeah, they definitely do the top 20 games. And they also publish for anyone that wants to requested games, and then they just throw lines out, not necessarily on their sheet that they do it on, but they do it just through Twitter. So,
got it. Okay. Well, look, we got 5 games, as you said, that we are going to cover, and what we will do is we will start with Michigan and Cleveland State. The line is Michigan laying 12.5.
Wow. To
Cleveland State, and the over-under 20.5. RD, what do you think?
12.5 is a lot, but it doesn't seem that unreasonable given the state of an early season victory for Michigan and the obvious first game in Cleveland State's history as well. The edge is to Cleveland State in terms of its home field advantage, but that's pretty much it. I'm going to have Cleveland State covering 12.5 here. 12.5 is a large number, but I definitely could see this being a 20-3 kind of score. What's the over the under 20.5 points?
20.5.
I'll take the over, but I'm gonna take Cleveland State on the line. I think they might get under 12 goals, but it's still going to be a one-way competition. AT, what about you?
I am going to take Michigan in this. And the reason I'm going to take Michigan is I think that they show up with a real chip on their shoulder after a tough 2016 season. And I think that they want to get off to a great start. And I think that, unfortunately, Cleveland State is not going to be able to hang with them in this contest. My hope is that Cleveland State can cover. My hope is that Cleveland State can keep this, under a double-digit outcome.
Yeah.
But I just don't think they're going to be able to do it. I think that Michigan rolls out way too much talent, and they show up with, again, a big chip on their shoulder based on the way their season went last year. I see Michigan covering 12.5, and I like the over in this game as well, because I do think Cleveland State's going to score some goals. I see this being about 18-5, something like that. So I do. I like Michigan, and I like the over.
That's good. What's next?
Next game. A much closer contest, and this is BU, Boston University versus Providence College. BU is favored by 3.5, so they're laying 3.5 to PC, and the over and under is 18.5.
And where is the game? The game is in Providence?
I wasn't counting on that second level question, Ryan.
It's important,
The game is in Providence.
Yes, I think it is.
Or at least that's what it's today at 1 o'clock. Not too far off.
Nope.
Under 2 hours.
Yep.
Unreal. Sam Talco is probably sharpening his sword right now.
Yeah, that's right. I do think so. Look, if Sam Talco is going to have the day that we all think he's going to have at the Face-Off X, I do see this potentially being a 4 to 5 goal victory, but I do like the line at 3.5. That's a tough one to pick. I'll take BU with 4 goal victory. 18.5. I see it as I think Providence is going to slow this game down, and I think generally this game is going to be a slow-paced game. I'm going to take the under on 18.5, but I will – God, I'm trying to second-guess myself here. I think, again, it's going to be a closer game, but I think maybe a backdoor cover kind of happens in the end of this. Maybe it's a 3-goal lead for BU. Providence comes out of the cup, and BU finishes it off for a 4-goal win. But I'll take the under on 18.5. I do think Sam Talco is going to be the difference in this one, and I think Carson Bannister is also going to be the difference in this one. So that's who I have for that game. AT?
I like it. I like it a lot. I think that, look, both teams have great goalies.
Yes.
But I think that Sam Talco is going to control this game, and that BU is going to end up having the ball. We talked a little bit about it this week on the preview, but I just think BU is going to have too much offense for them, and they're going to wear down Providence College. So I like BU laying 3.5 to Providence, and I also like the under on the strength of the goaltending. And so I also got BU in the under.
Perfect. So
who did you take in the I know you took Cleveland State. Did you take the under or the over in that game? That was 20.5.
I took I don't remember actually. I think I took the
Feels
over.
good when it's happening. It's when you come out of it, it's a little awkward.
I took the under. No.
I love that's kind of a little bit like the slow, fast-paced offense of Delaware.
It's so brutal.
But that's brutal. All right. We're going to give you the under, and that puts us on both sides of that bet in that one. But we're on both sides of the fence in BU. So,
let's take a break real quick. We'll give our shout-outs to Sisu. We're going to show a commercial break here, but otherwise we'll be back, right, for the last 3 picks, right?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Taking a quick break for Sisu mouth guards. Witness evolution. And here it is.
At Sisu, we take a very scientific approach to making sure our technologically advanced, doctor-developed, scientifically backed, industry-changing mouthguards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouthguards on the planet to guarantee you're protected. No matter what comes your way, the Sisu Next Gen Sisu, talk, breathe, drink.
Okay. Moving on, we are going to the third game, and that is going to be Penn State and Robert Morris. Robert Morris is going to Penn State. Game faces off at 3 p.m. today. Penn State is laying 8.5.
Wow.
To RMU, and the over-under is at 21.5.
Another tough one. It's indoors at Penn State. 21.5 is the over-under.
Yep.
This is a really tough one too. 8.5. I'm going to give Penn State here 8.5 goals. And the reason being is it's going to be indoors. And it's very, very, they're already down 5 goals. Robert Morris is coming off the bus. And so I do think that Penn State is primed to have a big time 2017 season. I think that Robert Morris, while has a powerful offense, I just don't think that I think they see what Gerard Arcieri is going to bring to the table this year to Division I lacrosse. I don't think they see the ball all that much. And I think Penn State is physically matching up a little bit stronger than what Bobby Moe is going to produce on the offensive end. So I will take the over, and I'm going to take Penn State with 8.5. Just because I do think Robert Morris is going to definitely score some goals, but just not enough for 8.5 point spread. AT, what do you think?
Interesting. I think 8.5 goals is too many goals to give RMU, given the amount of Canadians that they have on their team.
Remember though, that they're on the other side of the ball too.
Yeah, listen, I think that Penn State's going to dominate the face-off X. I think that Penn State is going to score goals, but I think that 8.5 goals to a team that was throwing up over 11 goals a game, I think it's too much. I'm with you. I think Arcieri in the face-off group at Penn State dominates the game. I think it's tough to play indoors for anyone, but let's face it, RD, Canadians are better at catching the ball than Americans. So I think that the white background of Hall or wherever they're playing, which is probably going to be where they're playing, I think it affects RMU less than it would affect any other team with less Canadians. So I'm going to take RMU and the 8.5 goals. I like that, but I also do think it's going to be an over. So I got RMU in the over.
That's perfect. What's next up on the docket?
Next up, my boy Joe Bresh.
Rymo too.
And Ryan Moran in his first game at UMBC. UMBC travels to Chapel Thrill, facing off today at 3 p.m. What do you think, RD? I got the line at UNC, also at -8.5.
Wow.
Over under 20 goals.
I got. This is another one that's tough. I'm also going to give UNC 8.5 goals, and the 20.5 is the over under here.
20.
I've got the over on 20. I've got the over on 20. I think that both teams are going to score a decent amount of goals, but certainly 9 more goals is going to be scored by UNC over UMBC. I think that going down to Chapel Thrill is going to wear in on the travel plans. I think that UNC is going to start strong, and they usually do against teams like UMBC. I think that Ryan Moran shows some promise in his first career head coaching game. However, I think walking into the dentist office in Chapel Hill is going to be a little tough for a start. So that's what I've got. I've got UNC by 8.5 for sure. I got UNC winning this one, and then I certainly think that it'll be over 20 goals, probably somewhere around 12, or I guess I got to do the difference here. It's going to be 18 something. Do the math. 11. Yeah.
So,
10,
all right, you got UNC
9.
in the over.
Yes.
All right. I listen, this is a tough game, but I think that UNC makes a statement with their defense this season. And I do think that UMBC is going to come into the game very, very fired up. But I think, unfortunately, they're going to be the victim to a now complete UNC team that I think, as I said before, will ultimately be known for their defense at the end of this year. And so I think they're going to hold UMBC down. I can see them holding down to 5 goals.
Wow.
And I see their defense creating some transition offense. I don't see them having an unbelievable shooting day, but I do see them scoring enough goals to cover 8.5. I can see a 16-5 win by Carolina. So I have as well UNC and the over at 20. So UNC in the over as well.
Perfect. Last game, which should be the best game, right?
Last game. Yes, we like the crescendo here at In Your Face as it relates to games. However, we have finished the Saturday games. We're moving on to the lone Sunday game, which is Duke and Air Force. I have Air Force traveling to Duke, playing at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. And Duke is laying 5, and the over-under is 17.5, kind of a low number for a Duke game. What do you got?
So 5 goals to Duke, right? Is that what it is?
Duke's favored by 5.
I'm going to take Duke on this, but I do think it's going to be a situation where it is a low score. 17 goals. I can see like a 10 or a 12-7 game-ish.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the over on 17. I'm going to take Duke by 5, but I just don't think 17.5. I just don't think the face-off situation is going to pose a tough scenario for Air Force. I think that traveling by the way, Air Force is 11. Last year was 11-3 on the road. 11-2, excuse me, on the road. 11-2 on the road, and that includes 4 neutral games. So that's incredible. Other than them and Marquette are the 2 most road warrior teams in the country. I do think they come out, but I do think this team's a little bit different than it has in years past. But I also think that Duke has a lot to prove this year. And we're going to be looking at an attack that's going to have a lot of pressure on them throughout the year, and a midfield group that we're just not sure who it's going to be. And so that in itself, should pose problems for Air Force. But I think there's a chance that Duke covers. I'm taking Duke in this one.
And Duke in the over?
Duke in the over.
All right. So, yeah, this is a challenge because I don't feel great about Duke in the ACC. In fact, I have them finishing last in the ACC regular season this year. That doesn't mean they won't win the national championship.
Right. That's so true.
But I see them struggling in league. I look at Duke, and last year, I was not impressed with the way that their season ended. As we said before, the ball just seemed to be dead in Miles' stick the entire game. But I do know that they return Kyle Rowe, stud face-off guy, who I think is going to dominate this game like he did last year. I think last year he was 17 for 22. I see him dominating that aspect again. I see Duke returning most of, not all of their defensemen.
Yep.
They got a good goalie in Danny Fowler. I'm not impressed with Duke's offense, so I don't see them scoring a ton of goals. I see them scoring about 13 goals. And I think with what Air Force returns on the offensive end, I think that they're going to get to 10. I see it about 13-10 Duke. So I am going to take Air Force getting 5 versus Duke, but I'm also going to take the over because awesome. I think it's going to be, again, 13-10. I think 17-5 is just too low for this game, given that Air Force loses its goalie. So I've got Air Force. So
I think though there's a possibility that Air Force comes out in a zone, and this game turns into a sloppy game. And with their offense, that we're not really sure who's going to be the go-to guy. They do have Bruckner and. Who's the other gentleman at attack at Duke? Guttering, right. You've got those two. Those guys can pull the trigger and they can score. I just, with the midfield, and now you put in Air Force putting in a zone, and you're going to see a zone the whole game. It could end up being the under in 17. So
but I don't see Duke scoring their goals in settled 6-on-6 situations.
There you go.
I see them scoring their goals in transition off of face-off wins and off of, defensive live situation turnovers. That's how I see them scoring. But you could be right. If it ends up being, if Air Force can neutralize Kyle Rowe to some degree and win 40%, or 45%, and they're able to slow it down because Saramet's very, very smart, understands
disciplined on offense type guy.
Yeah, and you got a lot of returning veterans playing on the offensive end for Air Force. They want to keep this a low-scoring game. There's no question. Then you could be right, but I think that they're going to have more success than 5 out of 22 for them to be in position to win this game this year, because they don't have Doug Gaucho to bail them out like he did last year with 17 saves.
That's right. Well, that's it for the show today. We will be back on Tuesday with our runs of the week. There is a Tuesday game, though, with Hopkins and Navy. So be ready for us to potentially pick on that game that morning. But otherwise, we will be back all next week. Check out all the games. There are 11.
Who do you like in the Super Bowl, RD?
I do like the Pats. The Pats will win it. The Pats are going to win it. They're going to cover, too. I think they're favored by 6.
They're not going to cover. You want to go for a personal C note on that?
No, cannot do that because I cannot. Right. Yes, I cannot do that. So.
All right. We'll go aggressive punch in the back.
Aggressive back slaps. Correct.
Right. Winner gets to aggressively punch the other guy in the back.
There you go.
One shot.
So
just like playing basketball against Torp, you're fine.
That's right. I'm used
to
it by now.
Actually hurts less. It hurts less to take a big shot in the back than it does to try to box out the refrigerator.
Check us out on at In Your Face, Lax on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook. We were just live on Facebook. We're also live on the LaxAllStars.com website. We're live on their Facebook site as well. So we're basically, our faces are going to be plastered everywhere come Saturday game days, which is nice, but it's also be published all week. So tune in to all the games this week. Tune into the streams. Support the game. Be a fan of the game. And we will check you back with you on Tuesday. Go Patriots.